This presentation is based on my PhD project, my research, which I have been doing for a couple of years in Peru, in the central Peruvian Amazon, and I'm focusing on the socio-economic and environmental sustainability of eco-friendly coffee. A smallholder of space. All right, let's go. Coffee works in areas that are typically very important, critical for environmental conservation. Most of the coffee produced in highly biodiverse areas that are experiencing threats to conservation, such as deforestation, environmental degradation, and therefore loss of habitat for biodiversity. And being such an important area for conservation, well, this area typically is located between 500 and 2,000 meters of altitude in tropical cloud forests. So here we have some examples of hotspots of that biodiversity that are overlapped with coffee growing regions. And there are many more. Here we just have a few: the Brazilian Cerrado, the Chocó Darien region, the Atlantic forest in Brazil, the Mesoamerican hotspot, the Tropical Andes, where this research is based on, as well as the Indian Western Ghats. And there are many more. So being such a critical area for environmental conservation, this eco-friendly coffee landscape can provide a high-quality matrix that allow both residents and migratory wildlife communities to migrate from forest patches to another forest patch through this eco-friendly coffee environment. These eco-friendly coffee ecosystems can provide several environmental benefits, such as climate regulation, water production, nutrient cycling, and carbon sequestration, as well as they are a very important source for local livelihoods. More than 25 million of marginalized smallholders depend on coffee as their main source of livelihood, and another 100 million people also depend on the rest of the value chain of the coffee, since harvesting the beans in the fields, working, cultivation, any other labor required for coffee production, all the way to packing, carrying coffee, transportation, all the way to the coffee shops. So we have a total of about 125 million people that depend primarily on coffee for their livelihood. And at the macroeconomic level, we also see that coffee is very important for many economies, developing country economies. It is right now, and it's been for the last few decades, the most valuable agricultural product traded by developing countries. It's the major source of foreign currency for 85 countries. And here you can see some examples of some countries that depend very heavily on coffee export for revenue, such as Burundi with almost 80%. But at the producer level, these farmers are facing so far a 3-decade-long very severe crisis. The low prices of the coffee are among probably the most important cause of destitution of these 25 million small coffee farmers. These producers are receiving very volatile prices. They go up and down very rapidly. And mostly these prices are lower than the cost of production. Here I have some news from the National Board of Coffee in Peru, the Junta Nacional del Café, and they have estimated that last year the cost of production on average was $2.4 per kilogram. However, these producers were receiving on average $1.4 per kilo. That means that for each kilo they were producing, they were losing $1 for every kilo. And an important cause of this problem is the chronic oversupply of coffee. Large producing countries, economies such as Brazil, Vietnam, Indonesia are flooding the market with tons and tons of coffee. And right now, in the last few years, China has started to become an important producer of coffee in the world. And on top of this problem with the market, on top of the volatile and low prices, these farmers are facing environmental instability within the last decade or more. The rain patterns have changed dramatically. The flowering season started earlier than before, or overlaps with heavy rains, which made the flowers drop and lost much of the crop. It's also we have droughts in the middle of the production season affects the rest of the season. And on top of that, which is related to, we have an increased incidence of pests. Here you see in this picture right here is a coffee borer, which is a beetle that attacks the coffee cherry and destroys it. Makes it, they cannot sell this in high quality markets. And then we have the infamous Roya del Café, the coffee leaf rust, that in many areas devastated in 2013 over 90% of the production, causing many, many social problems in these producer countries. This is some of the news I found from the National Board of Coffee in Peru, and they found that thousands of coffee growers have abandoned the coffee fields to work on illicit coca and cocaine production. Coca has raised very differently than coffee. The price of coca has doubled in the last 6 months. So they can make much more money in coca than in coffee. And so many of these farmers are abandoning the coffee fields to work in coca. And we also have the problem that they have difficult times finding labor to harvest and other labors, because these people prefer to go to pick coca leaves, which pay 3 or 4 times more than pick up coffee. On the other hand of this producer and coffee crisis, we have that these companies are dominating the market. These 4 companies right here dominate about half of the coffee market. And these firms are making increasingly high and record gains, while still the smallholder producers that provide them with the raw products are having a hard time to survive. You have seen in the last few years, the specialty coffee, the coffee shops, how they are booming in these economies. Even a small town that the one I visited in Peru, there are small coffee shops starting everywhere. But on the other hand, we have that the producers are still having a hard time to survive. And this is what some scholars call the coffee paradox. A coffee crisis at the producing end of the value chain, while there is a coffee boom at the trader and the roasters. So many smallholder farmers still have low input, diverse, eco-friendly agroecosystem that can provide significant environmental benefits. But economic pressure and livelihood instability may drive these smallholders to abandon these eco-friendly practices and switch them for some that with low, very little, or non-conservation value. Or they can switch from coffee to all together for other crops such as ginger or pineapple that are very detrimental to the environment. So it is believed that unless local livelihoods challenges are properly addressed, the enduring benefits, environmental benefits, are uncertain. But we also have the sustainable certification schemes that are offering incentive to these small holders to adopt and maintain eco-friendly practices. These eco-friendly schemes promise both monetary and non-monetary benefits to farmers, such as higher and more stable prices, They also provide improved access to markets and credit, as well as technical. And some of these eco-friendly practices are promoted by these eco-friendly schemes are to maintain a diverse shade canopy, to promote reforestation in these areas, as well as crop diversification. Other practices are focused more to improve the farm potential as a biodiversity habitat, such as limiting hunting in these areas and to protect areas of native vegetation. While other practices are focused to promote water and soil conservation, such as limiting the use of toxic agrochemicals and composting coffee pulp waste, which traditionally these coffee pulp waste have been dumped in the ground, just in the fields, or even to the water sources, contaminating many of these water sources, as well as the treatment of wastewater. After washing, the first wash of coffee is produced, this wastewater is very acidic and can potentially pollute water sources. Traditionally, for many years, these farmers have been dumping these wastewater streams, killing much of the flora and fauna in the area. But these environmental, eco-friendly schemes are promoting that these farmers actually treat these waters so they are not polluting the farm. Also, some practices promote the conservation of water sources, such as maintaining buffer areas around water sources such as creeks, rivers, or of other sources of water. And also to use some conservation practices, such as barriers, terraces, earth bands, and in this picture we see these farmers using terraces to control soil erosion. So these certification programs are assuming that the higher prices that they offer to farmers will compensate for the extra cost of implementing these practices, as well for the lost income of implementing the practice. However, it's been found that in many cases, these certification benefits are insufficient to secure the long-term sustainability of these, but their livelihoods. These certification schemes are designed in the northern economies, and they can fail to recognize the aspiration of local people. So often these certification schemes benefit more the roasters, the large traders, the coffee shops, than the farmers. Very little of the benefit, the extra money that we pay for this certification, certified coffee gets, much stays in the northern hemisphere. So it's believed that unless the smallholder needs and aspirations are clearly addressed, conservation goals of these practices and this certification are unlikely to gain the support of farmers. So I believe that a better understanding of these needs and aspirations is critical to promote this incentive-based, eco-friendly smallholder practice. The objective of my research is to better understand the potential of eco-friendly coffee production to support both environmental conservation as well as local livelihoods. And I collected a certain amount of data during the last few years, the last 2 years, from 2016 till 2018, and I used both qualitative and quantitative methods, which include participant observation, in-depth interviews to key informants, and household surveys to 75 households that and collecting information from 214 farming plots. So I did both quantitative, qualitative, and ethnographic research data collection. The research site is in the Satipo province in central Peru. This is within the Tropical Andes hotspot. The coffee farms here are located between 500 until 1800, although the farms are located below 1,000 meters, they don't have much future because of climate change. And the population of these studies are mainly like 95% or more are Andean migrants that came in the last 40 or 50 years, and a very few are local Ashaninka Indians of people. The study population that was chosen for this study are farmers organized in cooperatives. And I chose cooperative because among the cooperative goals, two of the most important goals are to support environmental conservation and promote the livelihoods of the members, which is part of the study, very important part of the study. And these cooperatives are already providing certain set of incentives to the farmers to promote environmentally friendly practices. We also find that these cooperatives have developed lists of farmers and members that can be a more reliable sample frame than if I was to work only or in combination with independent farmers that they are very difficult to localize. These cooperatives also have information available, such as social, demographic, and predictive data. And these cooperatives act as organized social networks. There is an element of trust that has been developed and is growing, and that was very important for me getting this cooperative, as well as they help me with logistical support. You guys have my coffee? She is the she is the artist. Okay, this is a set of dependent variables that are indicators of the adoption of eco-friendly practices, such as reforestation in their farms, farm diversification with other products, limiting hunting, maintaining areas of native forests in the areas, the treatment of coffee pulp, mostly for compost, treating wastewaters before sending them to the creeks and water sources, the maintenance of buffer areas along bodies of water, and the use of soil conservation practices. On the other hand, I'm using these explanatory variables to look for correlation. Some are household characteristics, some economic indicators, institutional variables, and farm characteristics. At this point right now, I'm playing with R, running my statistics and see, trying to find some patterns, some really significant patterns that I have to still to finish. So far, I don't have final results yet, but some of these, what I have been finding, gear me to think that I have some preliminary findings, let's say. So I found that smallholder farmers are adopting this eco-friendly practice for a variety of reasons. Some are more monetarily economic oriented. Some are more looking at the long-term sustainability of their land. Some are more interested in complying with the rules of the cooperatives because of allegiance to them, while some have more cultural reasons to implement eco-friendly practices. Also, each eco-friendly practice may act independently from other practices, which means some farmers may be adopting reforestation, but they are not doing any soil conservation. Right? So each one of these practices may be acting independently of the rest of the list. Also, I found that crop diversification is helping these farmers to cope with the low price of coffee. Like many of these farmers are also producing bananas, cocoa, especially in the lower elevation, grows cocoa produces better, corn and cassava. And some of these staple crops help also to feed the family, reducing external expenses, buying food, and also to feed the worker, which is an important expense in the family. And some of these folks are producing timber for self-consumption and for to sell in the market, both from native and exotic trees. Here we see some farmers are keeping bees and selling honey as an alternative source of income. I also find during this conversation and observation that many of these newcomers, relatively newcomers to the area, these migrant farmers that come from the highlands in the Andes, have started to learn how to operate in this new environment, new ecosystem, which is very different from the highland plains. Some traditional practices they have realized they have cause problems to them, but after decades of learning, of experiencing these problems and trial and error, and also some exposure to the training program, they have learned to adapt their practices. Those are more compatible with this environment for them. For example, they used to open, they clear a field, just slash everything down and burn it. And now they see that cleaning forests instead of clearing the large trees is more beneficial for them. So keeping the larger trees standing. Also, to keep a diverse shade canopy helps them to control weeds and to improve soil fertility. And these two things will help them to be more profitable. Also, they have realized that slash and rot works better for soil fertility than slash and burn. These fields maintain the fertility for a longer amount of time, and it's less expensive to find external fertilizers when they do slash and rot. So let the brush and all this vegetation to incorporate its nutrients into the soil instead of burning it. They also have found that they have to maintain these buffer zones to protect the water sources. They reduce soil erosion, and also some of these farmers were sharing that they saw how some of them or their neighbors have lost water sources in the area because of maintaining these buffer zones. Some of the water that they had available have dried out because of improper management of the water sources. They also are learning that they have to conserve the high slopes to prevent landslides. Some farmers has lost many important portions of their property because of landslide. And also some life has been lost because of that. So they know now that they better live alone and conserve this area, the high slope areas. So it seems like these certification schemes are helping farmers to cope with the crisis. They're giving a little better conditions than compared to the conventional farmers, the independent farmers, but alone, only relying on these certification schemes seem that is insufficient for them to escape poverty and to promote environmental stability. So I also have been finding leads that organic production system is limiting the productivity potential of the farms. So these organic farmers can reach up to 20 bags per hectare. These are 100-pound bags of coffee, of dry coffee, from 15 to 20, while those eco-responsible, non-organic farms, which they also use compost and many environmentally friendly practices, but also mixed with some limited amount, controlled amount of synthetic fertilizer and other products, can double or triple the amount of coffee. These certified producers are receiving a plus of $0.20 per kilogram compared to the conventional farmers, which is very small. It's a very tiny portion of the price they receive. But even that, often there's no buyers for the certified coffee, so they have to sell certified coffee to the conventional market for a conventional price. And even when sometimes when they get this organic coffee sold to the cooperative, these organizations don't have the money right away, and they have to delay the payment for a week or sometimes some months, which is very critical, taking into consideration the livelihood of these farmers. We had in 2013 a huge pest, the problem with coffee leaf rust, the infamous Roya, which had decimated the production in most of the coffee areas. Like 95% of the coffee areas have been affected, some very heavily. And since organic producers were not trained to use products that can fight off these fungal diseases, they were not ready to fight back the fungus. They were not trained to use the fungicide products, and they were not even allowed own protective. So some of the stationists were telling me that they found these folks just had to go and apply fungicides without protection because they know how to use it in own protection. And there's a lot of resistance from many farmers to stay within the organic zero tolerance system because they don't see that this is helping them to improve their life. And I asked them, why do you still keep growing coffee with all of these problems? And it seems very important what is false thing, what's the perception, because they base the final decision, the action, they carry the machete to the field and adopt or do not adopt certain practices. It matters a lot of what they perceive, what are the actual ideas, what are the dreams, what are the expectations. I have some quotes of the responses I was given by this. Why do you still keep growing coffee? Some say we are just coffee people, that's what we are. That's the cultural identity of who they are. Some say this is all we know. We just know how to grow coffee, we don't know anything else. And our parents were coffee growers, we have been coffee growers our whole life, but we prefer that our children are not coffee growers. They don't want that for their children. They grew up in a coffee farm. Since they were toddlers, they remember playing in the coffee field where the parents were weeding out coffee or collecting coffee. The kids were playing, crawling into the coffee fields. So as far as they can remember, they had been coffee farmers. And this guy here, he was saying, we don't understand probably, come from the city, but we love coffee. That's what we do. And no matter how bad the situation, we maintain this love relationship. It looks pretty cool there, right? Yeah. And this is another very interesting quote, like, we are farmers, so we know we have to cultivate, to enjoy, to reap the benefit. I think it's more powerful in Spanish. Somos campesinos y tenemos que cultivar para cosechar. En las buenas y en las malas. This lady also shared a very interesting insight from how she perceived coffee has been for her and her livelihood. It's like, we have had good years and bad years, and during the good years we grow, we invest, and during the bad years we waiting for the next good season, which is not going to be this season. But these bad years don't seem to. This 2019 is the worst. Right. Lower production or price. And Judith, this lady that provided her delicious coffee to many of us, she said this is the only way out that she sees to improve their livelihood of their family, is to improve quality and find a market. This is the specialty coffee might be the only solution for them. But these are only a few of them that are actually able to produce the high quality coffee because of ecological reasons and also because of training and skills. It's not for everyone.